Hello again and welcome to another Korp of Krieg tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I would like to say a huge thank you to Thomas Semples for sending in some awesome pictures of his Krieg officers and watchmasters. These guys are done to a really high standard. I really like the light grey camo scheme, and the fact that they've all got plasma pistols is just very Krieg. Really good. Thank you for sending these pictures in, Thomas. I really appreciate it. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use, especially for these Korp of Krieg videos, then please post them on my Facebook page. There will be a link down in the description below. So today, guys, we're going to be covering the fast attack section of the Korp of Krieg army. Now this is actually a really light section. There's only 3 unit choices. So it should be a relatively quick video, fingers crossed, but you guys will know that ahead of me because you'll be able to see the video length. Now, 2 of these are unique Korp units, and one of them is not a unique Korp unit, it's a generic one. So, the first one that we're going to be covering is the most iconic one, and it is the Korp Death Rider Squadron. Now, these guys come in a squadron of 5, but you can take up to 10 people in the unit. You must take a Ride Master, who's the equivalent of a Sergeant, and between 4 and 9 Death Riders. Okay. Now, these guys cost 17 points each. And for your 17 points, you get a guy who has a hunting lance, and the Sergeant also gets a las pistol. Now, I'm looking at Battle Scribe now, guys, and it does seem like the Sergeant can swap his lance out for another power weapon or a chainsaw, so he could take a power axe, power fist, power maul, or power sword, or and he can swap out his las pistol for another ranged weapon. So that's kind of interesting. So keep that in mind. You know, the options it gives me are, you know, the usual. So you can take either 2 pistols or a single pistol or a bolt gun or even a hotshot las gun. Now I'm not sure if that's the case outside of Battle Scribe, but I would definitely appreciate it if a veteran Korp player could just confirm that down in the comment section below. Because having a Ride Master with a las gun and a lance would be ideal. Now I know you can swap out the lance for something else. I probably wouldn't, because the lance is only 2 points, but it would maybe be worth considering taking a power fist on the squad. And the reason I say that is you're still hitting on 4s. Because of being Korp Krieg. We'll go through the full stats in a moment. But it does give you some dedicated anti-tank. But I suppose you're only strength 6 though, aren't you? You're only strength 6, so actually it's not much of an improvement. So you know what? I would stick with your lance. To be honest, I would stick with the lance. It's 2 points, and in terms of wound bracketing, it's just as good as a power fist. Okay, so let's go over the stats now. So you've got a movement of 10, weapon skill 3 plus, ballistic skill 4 plus, strength 3, toughness 4, which is good, wound 2, which is great, and attacks 2. And that's for a basic guy. So that is good. That means, and you've got a 4 plus save as well. Now the Korp Hunting Lance is a great weapon. It's plus 2 strength, so you're strength 5. Wounding Marines on 3 is very important. It's AP minus 2. Again, Marines will be taking their saves on a 5-up. That's much more improved. Even tough units will be taking them on a 4 plus. And it is D3 damage, which is great. So these guys are actually Primaris killers. Amazingly, these guys are Primaris killers. Now you can only use the lance on the turn in which you charge. So you've got to make sure that you get the charge off with these guys. If you are charged, you do not get to use the lance. It is if the user charges only. And the reason I mention that is a lot of abilities these days. It's if you charge, are charged, heroically intervene, you get the bonus. Not so with this. You have to do the charging yourself. Now, when you also come with frag grenades and crack grenades, so these guys could make good use of that. And the mount comes with Savage Claws. So after a model on this mount makes its close combat attacks, you can attack with the mount, make 2 additional attacks using this weapon's profile. Now, the mount is strength 4, AP nothing, damage 1. So you get to make, even if you don't charge, you get to make 2 strength 3 attacks and 2 strength 4 attacks hitting on 3s. Now that's pretty good. That is pretty good. They also have some interesting special rules. They have augmented mount, and we have covered some of these on the we have covered these on the characters who have been able to ride on mounts as well. But we'll go over it again now. So you have augmented mount, which means roll a d6 each time this model suffers a wound from an attack with a strength of 4 or less. On a 5+, ignores the injury and the wound is not lost. So it has a 5+ feel no pain, but only against small arms, strength 4 and less. Now, amazingly, that's actually quite good. It's actually weirdly anti-meta, because Marines these days love to bolter things to death. And most of those, yeah, they do have heavy bolters, but a lot of those Primaris units that people are making use of, like Infiltrators, for example, and Incursors, but mostly Infiltrators, they're only strength 4. So having a 5+ feel no pain against that, and you've got to remember, you are on a 4+ save naturally, so even if someone's in like Tactical Doctrine and is AP -1, you're still getting a 5-up save followed by a 5-up save, and they're only wounding you on 4s. So these guys are quite durable. They're difficult, and you've got 2 wounds each. They are difficult to shift, and they're relatively cheap. You can take 10 of them for 170 points. Not bad. Now, I'm not saying these guys will be able to withstand a full fusillade of shots from a squad of Primaris. What I'm saying is that when they charge, they are durable, and when they charge, they have some sort of anti-Overwatch durability. That's what I would rely on this for. At the end of the day, you are still only a guardsman on a horse, and you might be a good guardsman, and it might be a bloody good horse that's been genetically modified, but it's still only a dude on a horse. So don't expect these guys to be like tanky, like Ogryns or anything like that. They are tough, but they are not invincible. One thing to remember though is they have the call to sacrifice, obviously, so they don't take morale tests from shooting. But the really important thing to remember is War Strider. This model does not suffer any penalty to its move when charging into terrain features. Now, you've got to remember that, because people love to put craters down on 40k battlefields. Perfectly good bit of terrain, but if you try and charge through the crater, it will normally be -2 to your charge. These guys do not suffer that -2. It's very fluffy, because the whole point of these guys is to charge across the artillery cratered fields that the Krieg tend to make wherever they go. So these cavalry just ignored the penalty for craters, which is great. So moving on to the next unique thing that the Death Corps get access to in the fast attack is the Salamander Scout Tank. Okay, now Salamander Scout Tank is an interesting vehicle. It is 73 points, and it comes with an autocannon and a heavy bolter, just one of each. And for your 73 points, it comes with 10 wounds, movement 12, ballistic skill 4+, and attack 3. So it's like a Chimera that gets an autocannon heavy bolter. It's sort of like Chimera chassis. Now, when it explodes, it does so on a 6, and it's D3 mortal wounds. That's fine. It comes with smoke launchers, and it can be squadroned. Okay, now I think the main reason you're looking at this thing is the scout vehicle ability. Okay, scout vehicle. At the start of the battle round, before the first turn begins, you can move this unit up to 9 inches. It cannot end this move within 9 inches of any enemy models. If both players have units that can do this, the player who takes the first turn moves their units first. Okay. Don't think it's a great idea to go on a Highland charge with these things and deploy them 9 inches further forward. That is a terrible idea. You don't want to do that. Okay. What you use the scout vehicle ability for is as a redeploy. If you're going to take it at all, it's not really worth it for a heavy bolter and an autocannon, I'll be honest with you. But imagine you have deployed and you assumed you were going first, and then your opponent seizes on you. You could then use your scout move to go, oh, just going to move 9 inches behind that bit of cover. Just going to get myself a cheeky cover save. It's not a bad ability, but to be honest, I mean, they're not bad salamanders. They're cheap. They're 73 points. They are cheap. But I really, unfortunately, don't see them as great. to be honest. I don't see them as great. They're okay. They are a good way to get some armor saturation onto the board, but not so sure. But let's take a look at what other bits can you give them. Can you swap the weapons out? You can't swap the odd scan and heavy bolter. You can give them a hunter killer missile, and you can give them a heavy stubber. I would I'll tell you what, I would be tempted to give them that heavy stubber. It gives them just that little bit more firepower, because it boosts them from 5 shots to 8 shots. And if you get slight segue, but if you were going Cajun, I'd probably consider these as a cheap way to put some hunter killer missiles on the battlefield and take advantage of overlapping fields of fire. But we won't talk about that now because this is a Death Korp of Krieg tactics video. In the Krieg list, I'm not sure they really have a place. Now, the last one to talk about, like I said, it's a generic option that the guard have to that the Death Korp of Krieg have to them. They can take Hellhounds, and by Hellhounds that is the Hellhound, the Devil Dog, and the Bane Wolf. They can take anything in that you can take on a Hellhound chassis. Now, interestingly, and I'm looking at the options I have available to me here now, guys. They can't. That's the only fast attack choices you can take as a Death Korp of Krieg person. I know some of you will be thinking there'll be more Forge World options available, but it doesn't appear so. These are the 3 options that I have available. So I know Death Korp are kind of restricted on what they can take in their own detachments. It looks like they're kind of restricted in the fast attack section. However, there's nothing stopping you from taking Artemis pattern Hellhounds or other fast attack choices in a separate detachment, maybe an Outrider, or take a Cadian battalion if you wanted some extra CP, and then take your other Forge World fast attack choices there. But if you're going pure mono Death Korp of Krieg, these are the only choices you have. But getting back to the Hellhounds in question, the Hellhounds, Bane Wolves, and Devil Dogs, to be honest, the same rules apply to them as they would to a regular guard army. I think if you're running a sort of more mechanized grenadier style army, you'd get a lot of use out of having a few more fast vehicles, because it would help with armor saturation. If you've got something like a couple of, maybe a trio of Hellhounds, because Hellhounds are the best out of all 3 of them. If you have a trio of Hellhounds running up alongside maybe a same trio or 6, between 3 and 6 Centaur light carriers with full of grenadiers, you've got a real potent combination of forces there. You've got the automatic hitting Hellhounds with the AP-1, that's just some good all-round firepower. You've got the Centaur light carriers with their heavy stubbers, that adds a little bit more anti-infantry into the mix. Then the grenadiers can be throwing out melter gun shots potentially, which is the anti-tank. So and you can do all that for cheaper than if you were trying to do that with regular guard, and that would be the way that I would see running the Hellhounds, because regular guard you'd have to start putting things like veterans in Chimeras. Chimeras are more expensive than Centaurs. Veterans are more expensive than Grenadiers. So actually the Krieg can do, if you wanted to take like a pseudo Emperor's Blade formation, Emperor's Blade Assault Company formation, what I would do is I'd take a trio of Hellhounds and back it up with maybe 4 Centaur light carriers, and that's got 20 Grenadiers and their troop choices. You're going to have a couple of melter guns in each squad, or plasma guns, your choice. And you've got a force there which can go and take an objective and hold it and do a good job. So there we go, guys. That is the fast attack selection for the Death Korp of Krieg. Like I said, fairly limited, to be honest. I'm not sure why they're so restricted. Although, to be honest, I actually tend to find that the fast attack section in most Imperial Guard armies is the weakest section outside of Death Korp. At least you guys have got, at least Death Korp players have got Death Riders, which are an absolutely fantastic choice. The rest of the Imperial Guard is pretty much looking at Hellhounds for usefulness, and Sentinels to fill out brigades. So there we go, guys. Let me know if I've missed anything down in the comment section below. I do feel like the Death Korp fast attack section is kind of weak. Any veteran Death Korp players out there, could you please put down in the comment section anything that I've missed? And if I have missed it, I'll read the comments, and I'm more than happy to do a part 2 on fast attack, or address it at the beginning of the next video if it's just a few small things that I've missed. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.